Let me greet all the progressive forces that are here, including the leadership of the students and those who came to speak before me, because I managed to see Bongani. I don't know if there are still many others I've noticed. Bongani, when he left Action SA, I asked him to join the EFF, and he thought he was so popular to an extent that he will pull it alone, that he was going to be an independent candidate. Later he formed a party, Shuluba and Shem. He doesn't even have a single seat. So if he had come to the EFF, he will be a member of parliament by now, because as an individual, he possessed the necessary qualities of leadership. And he's one of the very few young Africans who ran a municipality for the whole term without any problems from Auditor General. Every audit was clean audit because he led from the front. We really appreciate you, brother. Let me take this opportunity to really humble myself by appreciating those who invited me here to Rhodes University. Cecil John Rhodes University, named after the most brutal colonizer, the most racist and imperialist, who would not have wanted you who are seated here to be here today, because he hated everything else that looked like us and treated us like slaves and animals. And we are shocked that we still, 30 years after democracy, have institutions like this one, where it's supposed to be a stage for intellectual contestation, still being called after the most brutal individuals who have made our life pain and misery. Grahamstown has changed the name to Makhanda. Why can't this university change a name for a better name? Today, we have a topic to speak about good governance and security in Africa, and generally about leadership. But one of the people who went through, who has been a part of this institution, is Steve Biko. Steve Biko, who came to advance during those NUSA's days the argument of why certain white liberals cannot determine our destination, argued that point from this Rhodes University. And when you've got a figure like that, not only associated with the struggles of the students at that time, but equally having an association with this part of our country, the Eastern Cape, what hesitates you from changing this university from your Rhodes to Steve Biko University? Fighters, we are invited to come and speak about good governance and security in Africa. But to be honest, there will never be a discussion about the security and good governance in Africa without acknowledging the damage that has been caused by colonizers and the imperialist forces. Africa's inability to be peace with herself, it is necessitated by the fact that colonialists want to exploit our minerals without being held accountable. It is the colonialists who are corrupting the leadership of Africa and making sure that those who are not corrupt are replaced by the corrupt puppets who will allow colonialism to continue in the African continent. Any battle you can imagine anywhere in the continent, it has got everything else to do with those who colonized us before. Today, they want to choose who are the leaders for African people. As we stand here today, Gaddafi should be an enemy of our people, according to the declaration of the Western imperialism. Because Gaddafi stood for our people. Today, Mugabe, who was a darling, if you think Mandela was loved, you must revisit your history and check when Mugabe was becoming the president of Zimbabwe after the defeat of Rhodesia. He was the most celebrated man. He was loved by everybody until he started questioning the issue of the land, that the land must be transferred from the colonizer to the people of Zimbabwe. But when he was not advocating for that, especially after the Lancaster Resolution, they thought he's one such a gentleman who will allow them to do as they wish, until he realized that he was going to pass on without transferring the means of production into the hands of our people. Today, every African leader who served for a very long time in Africa, we are told is a fascist, is undemocratic. This person is a dictator. But such words were never said about Queen Elizabeth, who ruled for more than 50 years. And it's not just monarchy, like a Zulu monarchy or Abatembu monarchy. It's a monarchy that has got powers on the political systems of Britain. There is no any prime minister in Britain who can proceed with anything else politically without the go-ahead of the Queen, now the King. No one of those prime ministers can declare a war. Only the Queen or the King can declare a war. But that person has never been democratically elected. That person has got no term of office. They serve until the grave, and they are not called fascists and dictators. They do so with our leaders because they want to impose on us the imperialist bourgeois democracy. That democracy is when you go for 5 years and you are done. But as young people who are engaged in this space, you have a duty to ask yourself, how did we govern ourselves in the earlier primitive society before the arrival of the colonialists? And we're not asking here of an ancient history. Very recent, you'll realize that we were able to govern ourselves without being dictated to by the white people in terms of how we must govern ourselves. Today, we must be told that a good governance is a governance that complies with IMF or World Bank. Anything else outside that, even if your people are benefiting, you are not a good leader. Actually, you are a dictator. Let's go back to Gaddafi himself before he was killed by imperialist forces. Gaddafi nationalized the oil industry when he took over Libya. And he made sure that the people of Libya receive free health care and housing. The people of Libya actually used to get a piece of land for getting married. That's why many of you will remain single, because you realize there's going to be a problem here. I'm going to marry someone, and where are we going to stay? As a way of appreciating the young ones who are beginning to establish the family unit, Gaddafi used to thank them with a piece of land. Today, Gaddafi is an enemy because he stood against apartheid and associated with all African countries that were fighting against colonialism. Gaddafi is an enemy today because he stood with the people of Palestine. Immediately when Gaddafi died, we saw Africans being taken by force in Libya as slaves, even post-colonial period. After Gaddafi died, Libya, which we're told it was under dictatorship and the most brutal man, has never known peace. It is under the group of warlords. It is under the group of terrorists, under the militia, and the people who are forcing themselves into power through a barrel of a gun. Today, one of the most unstable countries is DRC. Lumumba did not serve too long, because when Lumumba came in, they realized that this guy is going to create independence in the DRC, where the most strategic minerals are found. Since the passing of Lumumba till to date, DRC has never known peace. They will never know peace because those who are exploiting the resources of that area are the ones who are sponsoring the rebels in that area. They don't want authorities in DRC, because authorities will mean that we must also control the airspace of Libya. And when you control the airspace, you know which plane came in to do what and went out at what time. They are sponsoring rebels, doing land strips in the forests, where they land and take the minerals undetected and leave DRC. Today, DRC was supposed to be one of the most richest countries, but the imperialist forces will not allow it to be. So, Sankara was killed. And when you think Sankara was killed by his friend, that one was just the one who pulled the trigger. But there are brains behind that man who pulled the trigger, who, by the way, was a friend of Sankara. Burkina Faso would have been one of the most beautiful countries in Africa had Sankara lived long. The man who said to his people, here is the land, you must produce for the government and produce for yourself. Sankara, who loved education. Sankara, who gave our people health care. Sankara, who knew that there will never be total liberation of people if women are not liberated themselves. Sankara, who knew that a political activist must be equipped with theory of politics, because a soldier with a gun without political theory is a potential criminal. That's why political education is always important. Sankara, who said, I'm not going to be part of borrowing money from IMF and the World Bank. So these leaders, I'm singling some of them out because I want to demonstrate to you that those who seeked good for us did not stay long. If you come to South Africa, Chris Sani's crime was not because he killed anyone, was not because he was mobilizing anyone. Chris was just speaking his mind. Not because he went to mobilize the people of Alexandra, not because he went to mobilize the people of Eastern Cape against what the negotiations was talking about. He just said, this is not what we went into the bush for. If we are going to take it through a barrel of a pen and we don't fight, then you must know we'll never realize that which we went to the bush for. And they realized that this man cannot be persuaded, not even by money. And they did not waste time. They finished him off. Because when we were negotiating for our democracy and thinking it's a peaceful transition from resistance to democracy, we actually found our leaders negotiating deals instead of negotiating for democracy. You need to go and do a research and ask yourself, when did the Vodafone deal come into South Africa? Vodafone. There were no cell phones. Vodafone was not here. Vodafone was negotiating with the apartheid regime just before the negotiations for democracy started. When the negotiators realized that, amongst other things, these people are talking about a wireless phone which is coming to South Africa, they stopped the negotiations and went to Vodafone, or you are talking to wrong people. We are going to take over after these people. Come this side, and even if you insist on that deal with those people, when we come in, we are going to cancel that deal. Go and check out who were the black people who were part of a deal of Vodafone, what you call Vodacom today. And you must ask, once you know their names, then go and check what was their role in the negotiations. Then you will have an answer why we are where we are. They didn't have to kill them. They just have to corrupt them and give them the necessary resource to undermine the African struggle. Fighters, just ask yourself, who is Patrice Motsepe? Because many of you think that Patrice Motsepe is someone who was so bright and so brave and made business mind and then made money. No, Patrice Motsepe was in the ANC legal team during the negotiations. And Patrice Motsepe is a lawyer by profession. He's not a mining engineer. That's how he landed at the negotiation. He was the back office to interpret the legal implications of what these people are engaging about. In the process of interpreting, realize that there are issues beyond the legal, which is minerals. And then that's how he ended on the other side. It's not because he was clever and therefore he just made up, ideas about mining. So, like today, we are in a government in Africa called Government of National Unity, which is a lie, because it can't be a government of national unity if it doesn't involve everyone. Mandela's Government of National Unity involved everyone. That's why he called it Government of National Unity. And Mandela did not do it because he did not have numbers. Mandela won the elections, but said, even if I've won, I need everybody to come together to build the country. Not because I need you for you to vote for me to be the president. So this has got nothing close to what Mandela did in 1994. Mandela's GNU was a genuine GNU. This one is a grand coalition of the DA and the ANC. And it is not an ANC initiative, because you think it's the ANC that came with that. No. The DA came with what we called moonshot. The moonshot was an attempt to get all parties that are sponsored by the Oppenheimers and everybody else to come together and get 50% plus, and then isolate the ANC, EFF, and everybody else who represent the African agenda. That was their idea. When they failed to get 51%, they abandoned Herman Mashaba without saying goodbye. And went to ask the ANC the same they asked of others. When they could not achieve it through other people, they left those people and said, no man, when I come here, we can win this thing together. We don't need anyone. But the ANC during elections never formed a moonshot. Never said after elections, I will have all these parties working together. It's the DA that said that. But after election, there are people who are working together. Why does it start after the elections? It started before the elections, when the DA said moonshot could not arrive at the moon. They had to find something else. And then, like they say, they went to the president, and the president said, this is a very brilliant idea, but don't talk about it. I will go and coin it as Government of National Unity to have a buy-in of the ANC. So that the ANC people can believe in this thing. I can't call it ANC-DA coalition. We'll call it Government of National Unity. That's why the ANC people are defending something they know nothing about. But what was the idea? Idea was the same as Lumumba, Gaddafi, and everybody else. There must never be Africans in power without white supervision. And that's why the white supervisors had to come. The ANC allowed itself to perpetuate the interest of the imperialist forces and colonizers by going into bed with the colonizers. Now the ANC has got an interesting argument. It says, but you EFF can't say we can't go with the DA. You went with the DA in 2016. We say that's a problem of being led by illiterate people who can't define what is a coalition. A coalition is an agreement between the two parties or beyond who agree to work based on certain principles. There is no such an agreement with the EFF or DA or anyone anywhere. We have never gone into coalition with the DA. We voted with the DA to oust the ANC in the metros. Why? The ANC was becoming arrogant and more arrogant. And we said, we'll vote against you and you won't believe it. They thought we were joking and we did it. If they say to you, the EFF had an agreement with the DA, now they are saying to us, we can't have an agreement with the DA. Just ask a simple question. Show us that signature of Mbalula and Helen Zille. Show us with the EFF. Where is that signature? Why do you call it the same thing when the other one doesn't have a signature and this one has got a signature? What is the role of the signature? It is binding on all parties to execute that which they've agreed on. We never had such, and they are using us to continue with the wrong agenda. Fighters, Eastern Cape is a province of legends, fearless men and women. And I believe seated here, we will be able to produce African leaders who will follow in the footsteps of Nelson Mandela, of O.R. Tambo, of Chris Hani, of Winnie Mandela, because we believe that these leaders of the SRC are actually in a university of leadership. Because O.R. Tambo himself was a president of the SRC at Fort Hare. And from the SRC position, he became a statesman without occupying any government official. O.R. Tambo used to be given platforms at the UN and many other platforms where they are only designed for people who are leading government institution or government itself. So we believe that the leadership of the students must not be fearful. Because when you are fearful, you allow management to play games with you. You have nothing to lose. You are still young. By virtue of being young, you've got a license to make mistakes. Your nature has given you permission to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. If I was a member of the Youth League, I would be very ashamed of the leadership of the ANC Youth League today. That speaks like it's a veterans league. Because all of this critical thinking, which is being provided, it was supposed to come from the ANC Youth League. If anything, the ANC Youth League is now singing for posts. Fighters, you are too young to be correct. You have to learn, and you learn from your mistakes. You cannot want to be perfect and want to look like you are VC. You are not a VC. You are just an ordinary SRC president. Stop pretending to be a VC. You need to lead by example. When you are a leader of the students, and this we must put in the SRC constitution, and this we must put in the student command constitution, that for you to lead or occupy a certain position, we must require the results. last term results as to how did you perform. Because SRC and leadership should be given to people who are intelligent. Remember, we are now taking you out of your mainstream. You are not here to be SRC. You are here to learn. Imagine if we give you something else and you are struggling like Malema, you won't cope this side. One of the two is going to fail. So only the intelligent ones will have the capacity to multitask. They will be able to do academic work. They will be able to do SRC work. SRC must never be a platform for non-thinkers and for people who want to access the resources of the university in the name of the students when they don't genuinely represent the students. So lead by example, by passing, by how you dress, by how you articulate your positions. It's going to be important that you start practicing those things, because from here, you are going straight into communities. From here, when you graduate, being a teacher, being a doctor, being a scientist, you think you do that only for your family. It's not for your family. It's for the whole village. And when the village celebrates you, they don't even make noise and say, hey, what? No. Every person who visits that village who doesn't know you, because they are so proud of you, even when your house is not the most colorful one. But there by the doctor there's a doctor in that house. You turn right by the doctor there. They are giving someone direction who's lost in the village, but they are using your credentials because the whole village is so proud of you. Why is this village so proud of me when I'm just an individual? Because we're told that amongst us, no one like you will come from amongst us. That's why today we celebrate every little achievement by an African child. We ought to love one another, because from amongst us, there was nothing that was going to come. We were going to die in the sea, chained by colonizers as slaves. I speak to you now. There are many African bodies that are still trapped under the sea. They are fighting. The soul has not rested. Imagine dying, being chained. You can't even fight, even when you know I will not survive. But you ought to fight a little bit. Die knowing I tried my level best. Bodies under the sea, which wanted to be what you are, and were told nothing will come from you. Today, you look at a fellow African, you listen to the pronunciation of a fellow African, you listen to the name and the surname of a fellow African, and by that you isolate them. You look at them and say, these are not South Africans. These are Nigerians. This can be Miss South Africa. This can be that. Marfeljun can be a player of rugby, South Africa, and get celebrated. No one will dare to question, where does this surname of Feljun come from? Because we've been made to celebrate that which looks down at us. Anything that looks like you, you hate. Anything that sounds different from you, you hate. You know, comrades, the concept makwere comes from the tribalists who could not hear the other ones. When you speak, the tribalists, they say they don't hear you, but because they can't hear your language. When you speak, they hear. So you can't use that. You can't use that to want to rule out individuals. Comrades, we are hated everywhere else in the world. Everywhere else where black people are found. It doesn't matter their accent. They can speak the best English they want to speak, best accent. As long as the color of their skin looks like mine, they will be isolated. You get isolated to a point where even when you go to China, a young person who has never been exposed to a black person, when they see you, they start trying to clean you. But it looks like you are dirty. Because that's how we're being looked at. So where do we get the privilege with so much hate happening against us? Where do we get the privilege to hate on each other? If the unity of Africa is not important, why are they fighting against it so much? If it was this useless thing that has got no meaning, why is there such a big fight? They know that the only way they could conquer Africa, they had to divide it. They divided Africa. They gave it to all types of countries to manage. Our coming together is a threat to Europe. It's a threat to America. Our coming together, it means one currency backed by our mineral resources. And that currency will be against the dollar. And it will be more powerful than the dollar. Our coming together means one parliament, which means there will never be pockets of dictators who take over governments in Africa through a barrel of a gun. Why? There is one body which makes laws for the whole of African continent. There are no separate laws. There is one president for the whole of Africa. There is one military command in the whole of Africa. When they say they are rebels at the border of Rwanda and DRC, we call on the African command to go and make peace at that part of Africa without asking for the UN to come and help us. The unity of Africa will mean that there will never be a company called PRASA which will die. Because PRASA will be extended to the whole African continent. We'll make sure we build railway lanes and deliver our people everywhere. Why should ESCOM struggle when there are lots of parts in the Eastern Cape, South Africa, and all over Africa without electricity? ESCOM can give electricity to all of these people. And where do they buy it from? From ESCOM. Who owns ESCOM? It's us. We don't want, we want borders. Why do you want borders? We don't want to sell electricity there. And then come back and say we are unemployed. The higher demand, the more jobs we are going to create for this economy. ESCOM can, if you don't want to go into the whole of Africa, you can give the whole of Southern Africa, which was colonized by one person, Cecil John Rhodes. He managed the whole SADC alone. Why are we failing to manage the whole SADC ourselves? Not through colonialism, by providing services to them, by allowing free movements of goods and persons, and by allowing one African passport. People say, Malema says, borderless Africa, he wants people without documents. How can he want people without documents when he's got documents himself? Because it's supposed to start with me. If we are in a struggle for not having documents, we must do like Mandela did and go and ban these IDs. One continental passport means that we must all be documented. And there must be an African system on where do we find each other. You can't commit crime here and run to Swaziland. We will find you because we've got an integrated system of Africa. So fighters, we have a duty to educate these people who hear the message, by the way, but still want to behave like they don't hear us. Why? Because the division of our continent benefit the imperialist forces. So we want to say to our comrades here, please, let's continue to advocate for the unity of Africans and for academic excellence. We must not be inspired by criminals and want to steal masters like the Premier of Eastern Cape stole a master's in Fort Hare University. We don't want academic dishonesty. You must go to school and don't be like these people who are leading us now. You are going to go to jail when you are old. You must ask, Nosifiwe Mapisa Ngakula. When you think crime pays, you are going to be arrested when you are powerless and old. So quick, you can be rich now. But long term, all of that will be reversed within a day. So let's work hard because we want to command the economy of South Africa with skilled people. We want to nationalize the banks. We want to nationalize the mines. We want to run strategic industries in the economy with skilled African people. We don't need white supervisors. We need skilled Africans for us to run a successful economy. We need you to go and revive Denel, which used to be one of the most strategic companies owned by South Africa. Today, it has collapsed because of corruption. We must fight crime. Everywhere else, crime raises its ugly head, must be dealt with. Mkhwanazi, the commissioner of police in KZN, that is the man for the job. Criminals do not hear theory. That's why they ran away from school. So they hear the other methods, which is what Mkhwanazi is applying. So let's make sure that we fight crime and we fight GBV. Because we cannot be a society that is known for beating up women. We cannot be a society known for beating up children. We cannot be a society that is known for being a capital of rape in the whole of the world. Fighters, this university has to be safe. A girl child must walk here at any time without feeling threatened. We need to invest in the security of this campus. And if any company comes here and it doesn't want to look after our children, we must fight very hard to insource our security guards and hire capable security guards who are not going to be driven by profit, but by the security of a girl child. When we say a girl child must be safe, then you know automatically a boy child is safe. Because it is only the girl child who's under threat as we speak now. Fighters, we are happy that this corrupt ANC government has listened to us and cut that middleman of NSFAS is now going to pay directly the money into the universities. That is not enough. We want NSFAS not to exist anymore. Money must come straight here, and then money must come straight to your pocket. If you are a beneficiary, you ought to receive the money in your pocket. These allowances of students must be received directly by students in their own pockets. Why? Because beneficiaries of SASSA have got SASSA card. They don't receive it via. They are given directly the money. Why are you giving the student via? Fighters, we also want you to make sure that in this university, president of the SRC, where the students stay, there is free Wi-Fi. Not only in the lecture room, not only in the assembly points of students. Where we stay, we do research even at night, because research doesn't sleep. And we do it much better at night. So why is there no facility at night to do research? So it can't be a modern day university where we pride ourselves to exist during the 4IR, but we're still learning the same way our parents were learning when they were here. There ought to be something that shows that indeed these are young people of a new generation. Fighters, even the residences that are outside the university, they must be approved. No student must go and stay in a place where not even a white hobo will go and stay in that place. The SRC, leave the VC and them. If you care about these students, because during election you tell us to organize taxis to go and fetch them in those residences. So it means you know where they stay. You ought to go and do door to door, not only during SRC elections, during normal days, to go and check the living conditions of those students outside the university. Outside the university, inside the university, the living conditions of our students must be like those of white children. Anything that white child can accept, we refuse it twice. We must not accept that. Fighters, this place, Makanda, is so corrupt. It's waiting for you. This place is known for pothole. There is even a place named Pothole in honor of potholes. So, if you want to know, if you want to see a statue of potholes, you have to come here. So you must know that the problems of society are your problems, because you are members of society before you become members of the student community. You have to stand up and join the struggles of our communities to restore Grahamstown to its former glory. The ANC, everywhere else it goes, it messes up everything. We didn't say they must build a road. At least you found this road. Can you just maintain it and leave it the way it is? They don't do that. They dig holes on it. So we, the students and the young people who are intelligent, who are graduates, we are a threat to mediocrity. We are a threat to the corrupt. We are a threat to non-thinkers. That's why they will never do good to you, because they know more educated people produced, it's more threat to the ANC. The ANC loves them illiterate. The ANC loves them ignorant. That's why they will not give you free education. An educated mind is an educated vote. That's why this VD belongs to the EFF. Why? The EFF is the only organization that makes sense. For you to appeal to students, you must make sense. Just ask yourself, what is the sense of the ANC? Like, what is the rationale behind? Even themselves, they will not tell you what is the sense behind them. They will tell you, we fought for you. That is the sense. We liberated you. Even the young ones from the Youth League, currently, we fought for you. Hey, you are a child when I fought for you. Fought for you. So, comrades, let's make sure that here we protect all these candidates of the student command, and let's make sure that we always rally behind what makes sense. The EFF is the only thing happening in South Africa now that makes sense. Thank you very much.